This is episode 3 of Cold Email Breakdown, and I'm here with Aiden, and we're going to attempt to build a great lead list for his business and then also write an email around that lead list. Aiden, thanks for joining me. I think it'll be best if you just start by explaining to everyone who you are, what is your business, and what are you trying to achieve with your cold email campaign?
Yeah, sure. So my business is based in Brisbane, in and around Brisbane, in southeast Queensland, Australia. So Australia's third largest city, only about an hour and a half north of there, a place called the Sunshine Coast. Very apt description of the place, with a nice touristy destination. So my business is in underground service location. So anybody that's ever been wandering around a major city, anywhere where they are in the world, they'll probably see some paint markings sprayed on the ground, different colours, different numbers. Those are utility survey markings. They indicate if there's electrical utilities or stormwater utilities or telecommunications underground. And our job is to basically spray out the pavement, very much like a functional graffiti artist in a way. And that's done as a form of risk mitigation in construction. So we are a part of the construction industry. We also do what's called ground penetrating radar. Looks like a big lawnmower that's being pushed along. It's provides a radar around image of the underground. That has a variety of applications. So we use it for utilities. We also use it to investigate and analyze structures to know what's inside it. So reinforcement and post-tensioning or utilities, other kind of structural embedments. So we've been operating now for around about 5 years now. Our industry can be a kind of reactive one. Oftentimes people will call up the utility locator once they've actually had a strike and damage to some infrastructure. So if you're driving around and you see a big burst of water main, water shooting up into the air, chances are they should have caught it beforehand and they didn't. So what we are looking to do, basically through email trace, as marketing more generally, is to create greater awareness around what our service offering actually is, and to procure more generable leads. A lot of the times for a lot of companies in our space, it's very passive, kind of rely on SEO, have a good website, and a lot of players have been in the game for a long time, and companies will use them on that basis just because they've been using them for the past 10 years. So we want to create greater awareness about our service offerings, and just reach a broader client base, and hence why we're using email tracer.
What I like about your business is that you're solving a real problem that people really need. There's a lot of people sending cold emails who are offering something that, in the end of the day, it's not really something that people need to pay for. And that's one of the reasons why they get a low response rate. But I think with what you're offering here, if you're able to dial in the lead list and then also dial in the cold emails that you're sending with great copy and do all the other things correctly, I think you'll definitely get good results. So I think for the purpose of this conversation and to move this along, I think we should start by establishing what your lead list should be. So who is your ideal customer? Is there one type of person or one type of business that is your ideal customer?
Yeah, that's a great question. It can be a tricky one because with a lot of construction industry companies, a lot of the time they have the opportunity to tender for work. Let's say it's government work. We throw your hat in the ring, so to speak. There's seldom that opportunity for utility locators because we are oftentimes the very first ones to arrive at a construction site. So it'll come down to a project supervisor, maybe. It'll come down to a site foreman, sometimes an operations manager. But then again, the people who use our service, look at it varies enormously. So on the one hand, you might have a pest control company, and they, it's a 2 or 3 man band. And they need to have what we call dial before you dig service before they do what they do. Other times it might be a construction company with 20,000 plus employees, and everything in between. It might be an old farmer who wants to install some new fence posts and knows that there's a fiber optic cable running through this property somewhere. So it can be really hard to narrow in on the really specific kind of contact. So what we've done our approach has gone towards focusing on boots on the ground. So looking at a construction company, for example, who's the site foreman at a particular project, who is the operations manager for a particular area of, in our case, Brisbane, or a particular area of the Gold Coast or the Sunshine Coast. And then other ones could be contract administrators, so people who are trying to procure subcontractors for a specific project. So I would say across those three, they're probably the main kind of leads that we're focusing for each company that we look at.
Sure. And I could be wrong here, but potentially you're going to have to create multiple different lead lists and segment each lead list based on the specific kind of person you're reaching out to. So, and in this conversation we're doing right now, that's probably quite a lot of work to do in a short conversation, but I think we should just, again, for the purpose of this conversation, focus on one particular type of person, and then obviously whatever principles we discuss in this conversation can be applied to all the other kinds of people that you're going to be reaching out to. So if we could choose one type of person, who would you want to choose? Just for this conversation, would it be the sort of construction manager or pest kill company?
Yeah, I would say an operations manager, or let's say a small to medium-sized building company.
Okay, operations manager. Okay, makes sense. All right, so when it comes to building a list of these operation managers, where do you think is the best place to find them? I mean, there's places like LinkedIn, obviously, where you can go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Are there any other places? Google Maps, maybe. What do you think is the most effective?
For operations manager, for a very specific role within a company, I would say LinkedIn is probably by far the best one, where you're going to get the most accurate and up-to-date information, especially for the construction industry.
Okay, makes sense. And because a lot of people default to LinkedIn Sales Navigator as the source for their leads, and in a lot of situations, it does make sense, and that's why towards the end of this month, Email Chase is releasing a new feature that will allow you to export leads from LinkedIn Sales Navigator with their emails. I don't always like using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but it all depends on the particular campaign. But in this situation, I think I'd have to agree with you, because you're really just reaching out to a specific type of person. So for the purpose of this video, let's just say, operation managers, and you want to find operation managers in specific locations through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And for anyone who's watching this video who is not aware, LinkedIn Sales Navigator doesn't give you the email address of their leads, but there are extensions, Google Chrome extensions that you can install that allow you to export the leads from your LinkedIn Sales Navigator search with their email addresses as a CSV file. So that's what I was referring to when I said Email Chase is releasing a new feature at the end of this month that will allow you to do that. And let's just pretend that we have this list of, I don't know, however many thousand operation managers there are in Australia that you're targeting. I think we should now attempt to write this email. So I'm going to present my screen because I want to share a Google document here. And all right, so this is a framework that I like to use when I'm writing a cold email. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be perfect for your particular campaign. We might want to modify this slightly, but I think it would be useful to try to follow this framework and then modify it where we see necessary. So what I usually like to do in the subject line is I usually like to mention where I found the prospect, because if you use something like quick question or question for first name, those kinds of subject lines are typically overused and people associate them with being sales emails. So in your particular situation, we have a list of operation managers at certain companies. I'm trying to think, is there any way, for example, to are there any sort of physical locations of each company that might be relevant? So is there anything about each company that might be relevant for why you're reaching out to them? Is it possible?
Definitely, I would say so. I mean, you've got there are several big building companies that all have a particular reputation, all known for a particular kind of construction. Up until builders, the oldest company in Australia with at least 5 different offices of all cost salaries.
Is there any way to find out, is there any way to find out the name or location of a particular construction site that a company's working on? Like, imagine you have a that.
Absolutely. I mean, they're kind of hard to spot. But they're very, very easy to spot because we drive past them all the time. So it could be, project or the Star Casino in Brisbane or something like that, which anybody who's living or working in Brisbane can quite plainly see. That would be one way of doing it. The specific building sites, specific projects, oftentimes they announce it if they've been a tender. So there are LinkedIn is full of different news articles and press releases about how such and such company is working on such and such project.
And am I correct to think that for now, at least, you're only reaching out to companies that are in Brisbane or in the general area?
Well, look, it varies. This is a bit of a unique thing to Australia, is that we're probably the most urbanized, one of the most urbanized countries on earth. Like you've got, I'm not sure what the exact figure is, but upwards of 90% of people living in all the major cities, and very, very, very little work of reaching outside of these major cities. So generally, it tends to get broken down into the specific city that you're servicing.
Okay. So let's just say, just for this video, let's just say that we're targeting, these construction companies in Brisbane, for example, and we're looking for operation managers in Brisbane at these companies. How many companies do you think there are?
How many different building companies there are?
Yeah.
Well, major building companies you'll have, I'd say there'd be at least 10 or so really major ones, and that's what you call tier 1.
Okay.
So about 10 tier 1, and then tier 2, tier 3, and 4 being your local small builder.
Sure. Is it worth your time even dealing with the lowest tier, or do you think they were?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of our highest earning client is actually one of our total number of jobs completed. Is a relatively small engineering firm.
Okay.
And it, just by way of volume. So
sure.
We make the least amount of money per job, but the sheer volume of work that they give us, as an office with 6 people, is we're talking 5 to 10 jobs a week.
Okay, that's quite a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So if we summed up all the construction companies in Brisbane, all different tiers, how many do you think roughly there are? Like 500 or less?
Yeah, let's say about 500 to 1,000. We were. Yeah.
Sure. I think the nice thing about that is that 500 to 1,000, it's a relatively high volume, but it's not so high that you can't hire a real VA for a low amount of money and add a certain manual component. Because, for example, I was mentioning about the subject line. Usually my subject lines, I like to mention something that's very specific to the company, so they think I'm not just sending them an automated email. So, this is just an idea. This might be a bad idea, obviously. Like, we have to think about this longer to really establish if it's good or not. But, you might say something like the name of the construction project they're currently working on, and then something like that. So maybe when you're creating your lead list, and you have your Google Sheet or your CSV file, and you have all the different columns in your lead list, you can add a column which is titled something like, construction project name, for example, and you could hire a virtual assistant online, and for a very low amount of money, like I'm talking $200 or $300 per month, nothing significant. And that VA could add the name of the current construction project or location for each company potentially. This is just an example. There might be a better way of doing this. And so when you're writing your cold email in Email Chaser, you can then add a custom variable to your subject line, so that when your prospect receives the email, it's going to say the name of their current construction project. so that, they're going to assume you're a real person right off the bat, just because if you use something like quick question, they're going to think you're just basically a spammer. But if you can really get specific in a way that actually makes sense as well, I'm not, the specificity needs to actually be relevant to your offer as well. So that's why it's important to think about this. But
it's actually something I'd like to interject here.
Sure.
Is sorry to interrupt, but
that's all good.
What you mentioned, it just got me thinking. There's a service that's offered here in Australia called BCI. But don't quote me on exactly what that stands for, but what that platform, which costs around about $500 a month per company, depending on the tier, depending on the service area that you select, and depending on the number of leads that you want to investigate. So it can cost a lot more. You can pay $2,000-$3,000 a month if you want. But what it'll allow you to do is to search specific building projects, and then who are the subcontractors who have been awarded different contracts under that project, and then get their contact details. So in terms of specificity, I can see how this would synergize, like everything that you just mentioned there would synergize so well with this particular platform. And it might be a little bit more expensive, sure, but it would ensure that
the returns would be worth it. Yeah, and that's why earlier in this conversation I was talking about how the lead list is so important, because usually you have to write your copy around the lead list. So maybe use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Yeah, that might work. But in my opinion, if you can maybe use the other database where you can get the name of each construction project and the companies involved, that if I were you, that's what I would do, because I think that's going to result in a much higher response rate, most likely. But anyways, we don't have much time here today, so I don't want to, we could talk all day about this, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to write for the subject line something like construction project name. So this would be, this is just a hypothetical custom variable that basically, it would be a column in your CSV file. So for each lead or each operations manager or company, you would add the name of their current construction project. So, and can you just remind me again what your main service is that you're going to be trying to offer them?
Let's say it's a big construction project based in the Brisbane CBD, in the city. We could say something like concrete scanning works, or something like that. A lot of those projects that we do in the inner city tend to be concrete scanning, which is that'll brand penetrate radar. It's a way of seeing what's inside structures before they drill holes in it, basically.
Okay, makes sense. Now, yeah, okay. So as you can see, so we have this framework down here, which we're sort of going through, but as we're going through the framework, I'm going to attempt to write some kind of email, which later on when you have more time, this can probably be modified to improve, but I'm trying to put something together as we talk. So for the subject line, I just wrote construction project name, concrete scanning. So maybe, I don't know, let's just pretend there's a project being called The Tides, for example. It might be called The Tides Concrete Scanning. That's pretty specific to that company. I mean, the operation manager is definitely going to open that email. They're not going to ignore that. That's very specific. And what I like to do, this is just my opinion, so people watching this video or even yourself may disagree with me, but I've had a lot of success tying my PS line at the bottom of my email to the subject line. So, for example, if the subject line says The Tides Concrete Scanning, in the PS line at the bottom, I'll say something like, I saw that you're working on the construction project name currently, so wanted to reach out about your concrete scanning plans. And by the way, what I'm writing right now is definitely not the refined version. Whatever we write here can probably be improved just by rewriting it a couple times. This is just a very quick demo, but in this example, I just wrote, P.S. I saw that you're working on the Tides, for example. So wanted to reach out about your concrete scanning plans. Something like that, because when someone reads this, they're going to think, okay, this person's a real person. They're reaching out just to me and my company about a specific project. The likelihood that this is an automated email is from their perspective is basically zero compared to the regular emails they receive in their inbox, which are really bad. So that's the goal of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make it seem like there is no way that this email was not manually written by a real person. And if we can achieve that, your response rate is going to be 10 times higher. So just to keep moving forwards in this conversation, I always start my emails with something like hi first name or dear first name, depending on the context. For the body, technically the PS line is part of the body, but I always write the PS line with the subject line. But let's now just finish the rest of the body. So in the framework I mentioned down here, I basically have 3 parts. One of them is kind of optional, but the first part is say what you do and why it's 10x better than whatever the prospect is currently doing. So a lot of people, when they write their cold emails, they basically just, they'll waste the first line with some kind of BS personalization or AI generated first line. And in my opinion, that's doing more harm than good, because it makes your email look AI generated, and also makes you look like a salesperson. If you get straight to the point and just say exactly what you do and why it's 10 times better than whatever they're currently doing, you're going to get their attention, assuming that what you say is actually decent. So if you could write one sentence here as briefly as possible, what would you say that would describe your concrete scanning service, or what?
Yeah, good question. I'm on the spot here now.
No pressure. If you need to take 5 minutes to think about this, it's fine. No rush. It's hard.
If I could describe the service that we do, is to say, look, we're starting our web, this is exactly what we're doing. We use advanced ground penetrating radar technology. Our company uses advanced ground penetrating radar. Technology. So, and this is the sort of two-pronged approach in terms of what our offering is, to see within structures, and minimize the risk of damage. Saving you time and money.
Would it be minimize the risk of damage before construction starts, or do you think that's not necessary to include?
I would say something like minimize the risk of damage to structural embedments. So what they're looking to do is avoid damaging electrical conduits that might be running through a concrete slab, or a $10,000 repair bill. $10,000 repair bill, like a post-tension cable kind of reinforcement. So as somebody that's in the industry would say structural amendments, they'll without a doubt know exactly what that's referring to.
Yeah, and actually I think using that kind of language in your email is a good thing, because since your lead list is highly targeted to operation managers who work in the construction industry, as you say, they're going to know what you're talking about. Yeah. And when they read this, they're going to know that you're not some random dude just sending emails to millions of people. You're clearly in this industry. You know what you're talking about, so it's going to help you. So again, the exact text that we're writing right now is probably not going to be the final version, because it could take 2 hours to remove all the unnecessary words and make it perfect. But we're kind of creating the general idea here, which I think is good. So, my company uses advanced ground penetrating radar technology to see within structures and minimize the risk of damage to structural embedments. So we just finished the first main sentence in this email, and now what we can do is go on to the second section. So in this framework I have down here, the second section of the body is mention a case study or something impressive. So, for example, if I was writing a cold email for Email Chaser, I might say something like 2,000 plus companies already use Email Chaser. In this particular email, we're in the Brisbane area, your existing company already established in Brisbane. What are a couple of clients that you already have, which all of the construction companies in Brisbane are going to already know about? Or
okay, yeah, great question. So we do, we've worked on several major projects with Hutchinson's Builders. They've been around for 100 years, and everybody knows that name. And we've done quite a bit of work with them. So good.
How do you spell is it Hutchinson?
Chin. Hutchin.
Whatever. Either way, you can we can fix this way.
We'll work with Hutchinson's Builders.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. We'll work with Hutchinson Builders, Blend Projects, BLEND. They're a massive workshop approver, and quite a well-known firm. Blend Projects, as well as the Cross River Rail Project, a big civil works project happening in Brisbane that everybody that lives in around the city has been impacted by, whether it's delays in getting to work, or somebody in construction that has been subcontracted onto there at some point.
Okay, cool. I think those examples, those past clients you've already worked with, are sufficient. And I don't always add this line to all my cold email templates, but I think in your particular situation, this is going to be really powerful, because since you're in a relatively local area in Brisbane, having that social proof from other companies in the Brisbane area is really going to help your response rate, and it's going to make your leads and prospects realize that, okay, one, you're a real person, and two, you're a legitimate business that's already done some major stuff, and you're not wasting anyone's time, which I think is important. So the third section here, this is basically the call to action. So this is basically going to be the offer / call to action. So they're kind of tied together, and people have different opinions on this. So feel free to disagree with me. Obviously you don't have to agree with what I'm about to say, but whenever I'm sending a cold email, I always try to make my offer and my offer something that's so great that they basically can't say no to, because it's just a no-brainer. So I'm going to give you an idea here, and obviously feel free to shoot me down if you think it's not going to work for whatever reason. But you might say something like, something along the lines of, we're prepared to survey one of your sites for free, in the next couple weeks, no obligations, like something crazy like that. Again, you don't have to do this, obviously, but do you have any opinions on that?
No. Like, would be, more than happy to offer something like that. Absolutely.
Okay. Because the offer is important, and then the call to action needs to be something which they can easily say yes or no to. The call to action needs to be very clear, because if it's not a clear call to action, then the person receiving your email isn't going to really know what to say, and then they might just ignore you. And you also don't, again, it depends on the situation. In most situations, you don't want to ask for their time, because people are busy and they might not want to give you 20 minutes of their day. But if it's something that they can say yes or no to quickly, they're more likely to respond. So I'm going to write something here, and when I'm done writing it, obviously tell me what you think and tell me what you want me to edit, and I think we can go from there. So I'm just going to say,
one of your suspended slabs.
Do you think, if I said this week, do you think that's too soon? Or do you think that's going to put them off, or do you think that's a good thing? Or I'll just say suspended slabs at no cost. Or
one of the suspended slabs at no cost. Yeah, and demonstrate our reporting methods. So the one area in which our industry can really differentiate themselves from competitors is how well we report on what we find. So you can have, I've seen some really terrible reports. It's like a Word document with some photos slapped in and some crumb on the concrete. We stencil it. We can do 3D models and maps of what's in the structure so they can see right through all that kind of thing. So an opportunity to demonstrate that would be really beneficial. And we've had that before, where we contacted on the basis of one of our reports that has done the rounds and reports so felt this is different. It's better than most of what's out there. So, yeah, I think that's a great line.
Okay, perfect. And so this is basically the offer, and the call to action will be next. So for the call to action, I'm going to try to keep this simple. Something like, again, whatever I'm about to write is probably a really bad version of the final version, but I'm going to write something here. Would you like us to so, okay, this is a very rough version of the email for anyone watching this. Obviously, we just wrote this quickly. This is not the final version, but it's just to give a general idea. But I think this email is going to perform well, at least once you've refined it. I think it has all the key ingredients. It has specificity to each company where you're mentioning the specific project of each company so that they know you're not just blasting out millions of emails. You're targeting the operation manager for each company, who's sort of the main person in charge there. And you make it extremely clear what you do with no fluff. You mention some clients that are in the Brisbane area, so they're going to know that you're a real company. And you basically offer something which is a no-brainer. There's zero risk. You're saying no cost just to demonstrate it. And then you have a very clear call to action. And then the PS line ties to the subject line. Again, just mentioning, okay, I saw that you're working on, the tides, so I wanted to reach out about your concrete scanning. Again, you might write a different email that performs better than this, but I still think you should definitely try this in a campaign. Maybe use it. Yeah.
I was on the receiving end of an email like this that had this level of specificity. I noticed this, let's say, for example, somebody working in construction in Brisbane, and I saw Huntington Builders plan projects, Cross River Rail. If I saw everything that's out like it, that would certainly get my attention.
Yeah, and assuming that your email infrastructure is set up correctly, you're using the right kind of email counts, and you're sending plain text emails, and you're doing everything the right way, that email will hit the primary inbox because there's nothing in that email which seems salesy or spammy. It's a very legitimate type of email. So I personally, I'm actually excited to see where this goes. Obviously, no pressure or anything, but whenever you launch this, I'm very curious to see how it performs. And that's really all I have to say. I think we established the lead list or the potential lead list. We've also written draft email around that hypothetical lead list. Now it's really just up to you to actually execute on it, make the lead list, make sure your lead list in the CSV file has that specific column for the project name of each company, so that you add that specificity. And that's really all I have to say. Is there anything you want to add to this before we wrap it up?
No, that's fantastic. That's really great. It's given me some ideas as to how I can create additional campaigns and tailor them. I mean, like I said, earlier on in the conversation, there's such a wide variety of users of our services that need to be tweaked quite significantly. Whether in fact the template itself is actually really great, and I can sort of adapt that for a variety of different industry sectors.
Yeah, you might have 20 different campaigns. Each campaign is segmented for a different sort of type of whatever. And when we're done with this conversation, I'm going to send you an email with that Google document so that you can obviously have it for your own use and everything, and edit it. Thanks for joining me on this conversation. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem.